Hello, and welcome to this week's yoga class. Traditionally, in classic Hatha yoga, the asanas, the positions, were held for extended lengths of time, sometimes as long as 20 or 30 minutes in one pose without movement. Of course, there's the breath, there's the heart beating, but the movement is minimized. It's also held comfortably. In the modern world, that style of yoga is not as popular because it takes so long to have a practice. It was practical if you lived in a cave in the Himalayas 500 years ago. So in the modern world, the vinyasa flow styles of yoga have become increasingly more popular. Although I still love the slower forms, occasionally I like to practice a vinyasa flow just because it adds variety. It challenges me in different ways. Holding a pose steady is challenging in certain ways, but moving from pose to pose also conditions the cardiovascular system, the breath, the prana in a different way. So that'll be our class for today. A little bit more emphasis on moving through poses, putting poses together into a sequence. Take a moment to get comfortable. Reach the sit bones back, draw the flesh out from under the sit bones, tilt the pelvis forward, lengthen up through the waist, through the sternum, through the collarbones, broaden. Allow the eyelids to close without squeezing them shut. Soften the space behind the eyeballs, the jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. Slowly, lazily, roll your head around to the left or to the right. Avoid straining or stretching the muscles, just moving your head enough to create more subtle, delicate sensations and move those sensations around and through the muscles in the neck and the shoulders. Stretch the exhale slightly. And with each exhalation, allow the head to grow heavier. Almost hypnotizing yourself. Two or three more breaths. Coming back to center. Now we'll work with a seated twist, and today we'll do it as an expression of pranayama, starting with just the movement of the arms. On the inhale, I float the arms up, turn the palms, draw the shoulder blades down, lift the chest forward and up, and then finish the movement by bringing the arms overhead, shoulders back, chest forward and up. On the exhale, I float the arms back down. Let's do that a few times together. Find a slow rhythm of breathing that works well for you. One more repetition. Now we'll take that movement and expand it by inserting a rotation. Watch one time. I breathe in, and then on the exhale I lower my arms and I begin to rotate, and you'll be turning to your right. You're going to take your right shoulder back, your left shoulder forward, and then the tendency is going to be to collapse as you're rotating, so strongly resist that urge by emphasizing the lift. Lifting and rotating. When you get to a certain point, you'll feel resistance, then use your core to rotate further. Then at the very end, use your hands to assist and squeeze out a little extra twist. Then you'll repeat on the second side. When you're ready, sweep up, Rotate and lift, and then with your hands squeeze out a little extra, come back to center. On the inhale, float the arms overhead, rotate to the opposite side, and then with the hands assist. Let's continue with that. Rotating without the use of the hands, then with the use of the hands. Two more times on each side. Coming back to center, circling with the ribs, reversing, rolling out the shoulders, coming back to center. Now the next movement, we'll do it slowly and then we'll do it in a more fluid motion. Take your left hand, reach it behind you onto the floor, sweep the right arm up overhead, and then you're going to lift the hips up and to the left. So take your right knee, raise it up, take your left knee, set it on the ground, take your hips forward and up and your shoulders back. Look up and then come down, and there's a sweeping movement of the arms, rotation. Right hand reaches the floor. Roll your hips to the right, set the right knee on the floor, and then float the left arm. Take your hips up and away, shoulders back. And now, on the inhale, lift up, arch. On the exhale, sweep back. Now try to do it more fluid and with a sense of pleasure in the movement. Big sweeping movements of the arms. One more time either side. Coming back to center. Roll out the shoulders. Take a moment to settle back into the breath. So typically when we're stretching in yoga, the stretches are static. When we use movement, we move into something called dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching is where we use a movement and momentum to carry us into a stretch. So the momentum of the movement kind of swings us into a position that we might not access otherwise, that creates this stretching sensation. So keep in mind that you shouldn't be trying too hard. If any of the positions are difficult to get there, just get halfway or 2/3 of the way and get there comfortably. Let's come to our hands and knees, cat-cow. Moving with the breath. As you breathe in, lift the tailbone, lower the abdomen, open the chest, look up. On the exhale, tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin. Let the rhythm of your breathing set the pace. And then improvising, repositioning your hands, and then feeling your way around, arching, undulating, moving sensation through the body intuitively. Coming back to center and a couple more cat-cows to restore symmetry. Then tuck the toes, walk the hands in close to the knees, lift the hips into a standing forward bend. If your low back is vulnerable or your hamstrings are tight, place your hands on your thighs, otherwise relax into a forward fold. Alternate, lift one heel off the ground, stretch the opposite leg, go side to side, lifting first one heel then the other. Then, keeping both heels on the floor, bend one knee and straighten the opposite leg, and then go side to side. Coming back to center, lean into a little deeper stretch, take a breath or two. And then when you're ready, roll back up to standing, letting the knees buckle as you roll back up. Coming to Tadasana and bringing your hands into prayer position. On an inhalation, sweep the arms overhead. On the exhale, release into a partial forward bend. Come up on the inhale, and then swan dive on the exhale, and as you begin to relax the muscles in the back and the hamstrings, gradually work your way a little further into your forward bend. Slow, steady, smooth breathing. Working the overhead stretch, firm the abdomen, take the shoulders back, chest forward and up. And then add a side stretch, lift the left heel, flare the right ribs, lift the right heel, flare the left ribs, go side to side. A little bit of a back bend. And then a supported forward bend, hands on the thighs, back straight, and then if it feels better, release into a full forward bend. Take a breath or two, and then roll back up to standing. Now coming to the front of your mat for 12 step sun salutation. Sweep up on the inhale. Swan dive on the exhale. Placing fingers even with the big toes. Right foot steps back into a deep lunge, and then following with the left and holding plank. Pressing down slowly, smoothly, drawing through into cobra. Press the tops of the feet into the floor, reach the chest forward. Downward facing dog. Tuck the toes under, reach the hips up and away. Pull the chest through towards the feet. Take another breath or two. Set the left knee on the floor, step the right foot all the way up to the front of your mat. Lunge on the inhale, forward bend on the exhale, overhead stretch on the inhale, and back to prayer. Release the arms on the exhale, sweep up on the inhale. Swan dive as you breathe out. And then stepping back with the left foot into a deep lunge. Hold your breath for a moment in plank. Try to keep the elbows tucked in as you press down, and then draw through into cobra, and then pressing back into downward facing dog, holding for another breath or two. Working the downward facing dog. Set the right knee on the floor, step the left foot up, big lunge, and then step the right foot up on the exhale. Overhead stretch as you breathe in. Back to center. This time we'll add side plank. If you have any wrist issues or shoulder issues, feel free just to hold regular plank or bring your knees to the floor. Sweep up on the inhale. Swan dive on the exhale. Leading with the right foot, stepping back into a deep lunge, and then stepping back with the left leg into plank. Now see if you can lift the left hand off the ground, then roll the hips and the shoulders open and float the left arm up to the ceiling. And then try to face the floor with your hips and chest, and then place the left hand on the floor. Lift the right hand, then roll the torso open, float the right arm up, and then come back to plank, and then put the hand back on the floor. Draw through into cobra. On an inhale, push back into downward facing dog on an exhale. Set the left knee down, step the right foot up, lunge on the inhale, standing forward bend on the exhale. Overhead stretch as you breathe in, back to center. One more time, sweep up, breathe in, swan dive, breathing out. Leading with the left foot, big lunge as you step back. Hold your breath for just a moment as you step the right back into plank, and then open up into side plank, and then switch sides, and then come back to plank. Pressing down with control, draw through to cobra. Draw the shoulder blades together and down, reach the chest forward, downward facing dog, reach the hips away. Pull the chest through to the feet. Lengthen the spine. Set the right knee on the floor, step the left foot up into a deep lunge, and then follow with a forward bend. Overhead stretch as you breathe in, back to center. Now we'll throw in a few leg variations. You might want to watch first. The main difference will be in the transition. From downward facing dog, you'll set the left knee down, step the right foot up, and lunge on the inhale. Take your hips back, straighten the front leg on the exhale, hamstring stretch, and then straighten both legs as you breathe in, and then step up into a forward bend on the exhale. Okay, so let's try that together. Coming to the front of your mat. And that'll be as we're coming out of the 12-step sun salutation, the second lunge. Sweep up, breathe in. Swan dive, breathe out. Right foot back, lunging on the inhale. Left foot back. Hold your breath for a moment and then press down as you breathe out. Breathe in to cobra. Breathe out to downward facing dog. And then set the left knee down, step the right foot up, lunge on the inhale, reach the hips back, straighten the front leg on the exhale. Now straighten the left leg, both legs straight as you breathe in, bend the front knee, step up into a forward bend as you breathe out. Overhead stretch as you breathe in, back to center. One more time. Sweep up on the inhale. Swan dive as you breathe out. Leading with the left foot, deep lunge, breathe in. Hold plank for a moment. On the exhale, press down. On the inhale, draw through into cobra. On the exhale, press back into downward facing dog. Set the right knee on the floor, step the left foot up on the inhale, lunge, reach the hips back, straighten the front leg as you breathe out. Straighten both legs as you breathe in, bend the front knee, step up into the forward bend on the exhale. Overhead stretch as you breathe in and back to center. Next, we'll throw in a couple more rounds, this time adding a few standing poses. We'll do that from the lunge. Sweep up, breathe in, swan dive, breathe out. Right foot stepping back into a deep lunge. Holding your breath in plank. Pressing down, draw through to cobra. push back into downward facing dog. Stepping the right foot all the way up to the front of your mat, big lunge. Breathe in, and then from here lift up into angle, straighten both legs. Leaning into a hamstring stretch, rotating your hips, and then coming up into Virabhadrasana 2. Then drop the back hand to your thigh, float the front arm up overhead, exalted warrior. And then extended lateral angle. And then back to lunge. Step the left foot up into a forward bend. Overhead stretch as you breathe in. Back to center. Last repetition. Sweep up, breathe in. Swan dive, breathing out. Leading with the left foot, stepping back into a deep lunge. Breathe in. Hold your breath in plank. On the exhale, press down. On the inhale, draw through into cobra. On the exhale, press back into downward facing dog. Take a breath or two. Stepping the left foot all the way up to the front of your mat. Big lunge. And then straighten both legs and come into angle. Then bend the front knee and come up into Virabhadrasana 2, Warrior 2. Exalted Warrior, drop the back hand to the thigh, float the front arm overhead. And then extended lateral angle. Back to lunge, step up into a forward bend. Overhead stretch, breathe in. And back to center. Notice your breathing. Now, if you have a block handy, you might want to take that in your right hand. Step the feet wide. Turn the right foot out at 90 degrees. Turn the back foot in at 60 degrees. And then, leaning out over the right leg, take the block to the floor for half moon. Try to roll the hips open, roll the shoulders open. If you feel stable, float the left arm up towards the ceiling. Then bring your left hand down to the block and raise your right arm in revolved half moon. Then bring both hands to the block and see if you can lift both arms and reach out in front of you as you lift the back leg. Virabhadrasana 3. Virabhadrasana 1, stepping the left foot back to the floor, front knee still bent, and then coming back to center. Transfer the block to your left hand, spread the feet wide, turn the left foot out, right foot in. Bend the left knee, take the block to the floor, about 12 inches in front of the left foot. Half moon. Float the hips and the shoulders open, keeping the back leg lifted. Then bring your right hand to the block and float the left arm and shoulder up, revolved half moon. Then take both hands to the block, find your balance, and if you feel stable, float the block up and extend it in front of you as you lift the back leg. Virabhadrasana 1, stepping back with the right foot, keeping the front knee bent, and then coming back to Tadasana. Setting your block to one side, take a breath or two, notice your breathing, your heart rate, and then walking your feet wide again. Turning the right foot out, 90 degrees, coming back into your lunge, Virabhadrasana 2. Rotating into Virabhadrasana 1, floating the arms overhead. Shifting your weight forward, floating the back foot off the ground, half moon with or without a block. Then back into Virabhadrasana 2. And then straighten both legs, rotate to the left, bend the left knee. Virabhadrasana 2, float the arms, sink your weight into the right hip socket. And then reaching out into Virabhadrasana 1. And then half moon. And then back to Virabhadrasana 2. And then turning the feet pigeon-toed, release into a forward bend. Take a few breaths. Breathing deep, stretching the exhale. And if it feels pleasant, lean into the stretch a little more deeply. And then coming down to your knees. Next, working with the back roll. If you have your own roller, take a moment to grab that. If not, take your blanket, fold it long and thin, and from one edge begin rolling. Try to press down as you roll the blanket so that it is as firm as you can get it. You can control the intensity by rolling it up further or unrolling the blanket. In each position we work with, the roller should be large enough to make it interesting, small enough that you can still relax. Position the roller in the upper back, just below the top of the shoulders, maybe mid-shoulder blades. Extend the arms. The knees can be bent or straight. Take 4 or 5 breaths and just relaxing into this first position. Again, adjust the size of the roller. If anything feels awkward or unpleasant, make it smaller. When you're ready to adjust, you lift the hips slightly and with your legs push yourself over the top of the roller, set the hips down, moving 1 or 2 inches, just shifting 1 vertebra. So the roller, over the next few minutes, slowly begins to work its way down the length of the spine. In each position, focus on breathing and on relaxing. If you finish early, just go back to the shoulders and start over. If you're moving a little more slowly, you should be approaching the halfway point. In each position, breathing deep. With each exhale, relaxing. When the roller is low enough down the back that you can reach it with your hands, then reposition by lifting the hips and with your hands shift the roller closer to the tailbone, set the hips down again. Five or 10 more breaths to finish. If you finished early, go back to a favorite position. When you're finished, remove the roller. And then keep your hips elevated, and without letting the hips reach the floor, grab the right knee, pull it into your chest, and then set the hips down and hug both knees. And then take your feet to the floor, hip width apart. Working next with bridge. Press down with the kidneys, curl the tailbone up, and then slowly lifting a little bit, a few inches, and then decide whether to stay there or to work a little bit more deeply into bridge. You can roll the shoulders together beneath you. You can grab your ankles or interlace your fingers behind your back. If it feels okay, lift the hips higher and push the chest towards your chin, and then breathe with a complete breath. Breathe into the back, the belly, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. And then starting down one vertebra at a time, before the hips touch the floor, lift one foot off the ground, hug that knee into your chest as you set the kidneys down on the floor. Hug both knees, rock side to side. We'll try that again just so you can practice how to come out of bridge. Feet hip width, outer edges parallel. Press down with the kidneys, lift the hips, and then roll the shoulders together. If you want to walk the feet in a little closer, you can. Try lifting up onto your tiptoes, lift the hips higher, and then without losing the arch, reach the heels back to the floor. You can support the hips with your hands or grab the ankles or interlace behind your back. And we'll practice this special way of coming out of bridge again. Coming down part way and then lift one foot off the ground, hug the knee into your chest. This creates traction in the spine before the hips touch the floor. Then hug both knees, rock side to side. And then roll to one side, push up to sitting. And the next movement or vinyasa flow can be a little confusing, so take a moment to watch and then you can join in once you've seen it. But it'll help to watch one time. So, starting off in Shavasana. And this movement, once you learn it, should feel like a pandiculation, like a yawn and a stretch. So try yawning and stretching. And then here is the sequence we'll be practicing together in a moment. You're going to bend the left knee and take it out to the side. Then you're going to keep it where it is and start bending the right knee over the top. And this introduces a little bit of a twist. Then you'll straighten the bottom leg and pull the top knee over, and that opens into a bigger stretch. Then you'll bring both knees together, then you'll straighten the right leg, then you'll straighten the left leg. Then you'll bend the right knee out to the side. Then you'll bring the left knee over. Then you'll straighten the bottom leg and then stretch into a twist. Then you'll bring the bottom knee forward and then straighten the top leg, straighten the bottom leg, and then repeat on the second side. And this then becomes a movement almost as if you're stretching and waking up in the morning. Okay, so join in when you're ready. If you get confused, you can always rewind and watch again. Going from one side to the other. And one more time. And then pausing for a breath or two. And then bring the knees into your chest, draw the knees in, roll to one side, and then coming onto your hands and knees, and then positioning yourself in the center of your mat for Cobra. Now we're going to do a variation of Cobra called Sphinx, where the forearms are on the floor out in front of us, and then we're going to add a twisting movement. So from Sphinx, roll the shoulders back, reach the chest forward, and then take your left hand over to the right elbow, so the forearm is on the ground. Bring the right knee out to the side, raise the right arm, and then open into a twist. Come back to center, and come back into Sphinx. Straighten the right leg, and then cross the right hand over to the left elbow, take the left knee out, float the left arm up, and open into a twist, lifting the heart, arching back. With a little practice, this will become more intuitive. Come back to Sphinx position. So you cross the left arm under, bring the right knee out to the side, raise the right arm, and then arch into a twist. Come back to Sphinx, and then cross the right hand over, bring the left knee out to the side, lift the left arm, open into a twist. Coming back to Sphinx. Holding Sphinx for a breath or two. And then if you want a little bit more action, lift your elbows off the ground, pull your chest forward, roll the shoulders back. And then when you're ready, come up to your hands and knees, tuck the toes under, and then reach the hips back, one final downward facing dog. This will be your last work for the class. If you have any excess energy, try to burn through it. Reaching the hips up and away, lifting the tailbone towards the ceiling, reaching the heels towards the floor. We'll be doing several variations of pigeon pose. So to start with, don't overdo the pigeon pose, just warming up. And we'll practice coming into pigeon pose as part of a vinyasa flow. Starting off on your back, hold both knees into your chest. Bring the right knee in tighter, extend the left leg, and then roll to your right until you're in pigeon pose. Take a breath or two or three. You can roll the hips a little left, a little right, just exploring the space in between. And then rolling to the right, setting your right hip on the floor, rolling onto your back. Bring the left knee into your chest and continue rolling to the left until you're in pigeon pose on the second side. And then breathing into this position. Often, if we come into a familiar pose, but coming into it in a different way or from a different direction, the body organizes itself differently and we get a different stretch. The quality of the stretch is changed. Roll onto your back. Bring the right knee up to your chest. Roll to the right. Pigeon pose on the first side. Take a couple more breaths. And then rolling to your left, bring your left knee up to your chest and continue rolling into pigeon pose on the second side. And then coming up to a comfortable seated position. So we'll do another variation of vinyasa flow, which includes pigeon. Take your feet fairly wide, but keep the knees bent. Lift the chest, straighten the back, and then if it feels okay, you can lean forward a little bit. You can straighten one leg and stretch it, and then bend it, straighten the other leg, and straighten both legs. And then bend both the knees, bringing the heels in partway, knees bent maybe 30%. Now, we're going to keep the feet where they are, and we're just going to roll to the right until you're in pigeon pose. So the feet are going to stay wherever they are on the mat. And you just roll over into pigeon pose. Take a breath or two, and then come back up to your starting position and roll to the left into pigeon pose. As you come back into your opening position, lift the chest and then rotate, coming on to the right side. Take a breath or two, lean into the pose a little more deeply, and then coming back to your opening position and rotating to the left. And again, leaning in for a deeper stretch. Coming back to your opening position, and then leaning forward, rocking side to side. Straightening the legs a little bit as you continue leaning forward until you get just the right amount of stretch without any strain in the area behind the knees. This will be a little more complicated, so you might want to watch. I'll do a quick demonstration, moving a little faster, and then we'll do it more slowly together. I'm bending the right knee, grabbing it with the left hand, straightening the leg and twisting with a hamstring stretch. Then I let go, grab the opposite foot, and introduce a quad stretch. Then keeping the quad stretch, I add the hamstring stretch back in, and then I twist. And then I let go of the straight leg and then kick with the foot I'm holding onto an arch. And then coming back to center. Okay. So we're going to be doing that a lot slower. And follow along as best you can. And if you get confused, you can always rewind it and watch it again. Bring the right knee to your chest. Grab the foot with your left hand. Take it to the floor. And then reach the right arm up and away. If you feel too much stretch, keep the right knee bent a little bit. And then let go of the right foot, bend the right knee, and with the right hand, grab the left ankle. This introduces a quadriceps stretch. Still twisting. Now keep the quad stretch and with your left hand grab the right foot. Straighten the right leg and stretch the left quadricep. Then let go with the left hand and reach out, kick with the right foot and arch. Coming back to center. Straighten the right leg. Bring the left knee to your chest, roll to the right. Grab the foot with your right hand and then straighten the left leg if you can, and then open into a twist. Stretching the hamstrings, take a breath or two. Then release the hamstring stretch and focus on a quad stretch. With your left hand, grab the right foot. And try to roll the left shoulder down towards the floor. Now holding on to the quadriceps stretch, see if you can grab the right foot or the left foot with your right hand, and then straighten the left leg. Roll the left shoulder down. Then let go with the right hand, reach the right hand out and kick with the right leg to pull back on the left shoulder. Take a breath and release. Come back to center, hug your knees, rock side to side. If that last sequence is a little confusing, you're in good company. Most people struggle with that the first few times they attempt it. When you're ready, bring your feet back to the floor. And coming into Shavasana. The knees can remain bent, or if you prefer, straighten the legs out. The legs spread evenly. Shoulder blades drawn together and down the back. Grab your neck and then with your hands pull the head away from the shoulder blades, lengthening the back of the neck, and then set the neck down. Your armpits are open, the groin is open. And in this position, focus on diaphragmatic breathing. Allow the ribs and the chest to become passive and the belly to expand as you breathe in. Soften as you breathe out. Breathe with a rhythm that is completely comfortable to you, but the slowest possible rhythm that is still deeply relaxing. If you slow the breath down any more, it creates tension. If that happens, speed up the breath a little bit until it has a calming effect on the body and the mind and the nervous system. As you're practicing this, begin relaxing your face, the forehead, the eyebrows, the eyelids, the eyeballs. The jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth.
fingers, the hands, the arms, the shoulders. The back of the neck, and softening the throat. The feet, the ankles, the calves, the knees, the thighs. Loosening hips, relaxing the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest and shoulders. The back of the neck and the throat. The tip of the tongue, the belly of the tongue, the root of the tongue, softening all the way down the throat. The cheeks, and especially the eyeballs, the space behind, beneath, around the eyes. While the eyelids float lightly above the eyes. The eyebrows, the forehead, the temples grow soft and hollow. And relaxing the scalp and the crown. Coming back to the rhythm of your breathing. To the feeling of the breath. And now breathing a little deeper, belly, ribs, chest, shoulders, and slowly floating the arms out. Yawning. Stretching through one side and the other. rocking side to side with your knees. And hug the knees in, roll to one side, take a breath or two. And then, when you're ready, push up to a comfortable seated position. Drawing the flesh out from under the sit bones, tilting the pelvis. Taking just a moment to make sure you're comfortable.
So sometimes having a lot of music, when the music stops or the noise stops, we are able to appreciate silence at a more deep, profound level. And the same is true with vinyasa flow. Sometimes all of the movement makes us appreciate stillness. So take just a minute, meditating quietly. And when you reach your maximum depth of relaxation, notice what is still and notice what is moving. The breath and the heart, the blood. And when all else falls away, what is left? Bringing your hands together over the heart. I'd like to thank you for joining me in this practice. I hope you're having a wonderful week and weekend, and I look forward to practicing with you again soon. Namaste.